The wide receiver position is deep this year, real deep. Like if things break right, you're finding multiple every week starters in the 11th through 14th rounds. So deep that this is the second wide receiver sleeper video that I've done, and we're not even midway through July. I'm Dave Loughran with Awesemo.com, breaking it all down in today's video, Top 5 Wide Receiver Sleepers Part 2. And this isn't just to give out individual plays either. It's more so to give you an idea of how deep the position is compared to the running back position and the tight end position. Take your time on wide receivers this year. There's going to be more than enough of them to go around early, middle, and late in drafts. Load up on your running backs and keep these guys on your radar as you head into yours. Russell Gage probably isn't going to create much excitement in fantasy circles, but players like this can be a necessary addition late in drafts. Julio Jones is out of Atlanta, and while Kyle Pitts is anything but your average rookie tight end, we're definitely going to see some targets freed up in 2021. Gage finished last season with 72 receptions for 786 yards and 4 touchdowns on 110 targets, which was actually top 25 at his position, and all things said and done was the wide receiver 37. He was also the wide receiver 37 in 7 weeks Jones missed, but did have 4 weeks with double-digit targets on the year, and his 18 red zone targets were good for 14th most among all receivers. It helps to play on a Falcons team that won't win games with their defense pretty much ever, and is going to throw the ball a ton. Mike Davis is someone I love in the 5th round of drafts due to his 3-down profile, but he won't be the difference maker at running back that makes this a more balanced offense. Ryan is averaging more than 600 pass attempts per game over his last 9 seasons, and I don't see any sign of that slowing down. Gage should serve as the Falcons' wide receiver 2 and Ryan's 3rd passing option behind Calvin Ridley and Pitts, but that's fine with me if I'm drafting him as my wide receiver 5. He's never going to evolve into a wide receiver 1 or 2 talent, but wide receiver 3 numbers are certainly in play given the nice setup going into the season. Henry Ruggs is yet another second-year receiver who has mostly been discarded after a tough rookie season. Don't get me wrong, Ruggs had a tough year, and I vividly remember him sinking more than just a few of my DFS showdown lineups by running wind sprints up and down the field for 3 hours without seeing a target. But the primary recipe for hitting on a few sleeper picks each year is being able to discern whether or not they can significantly expand their role and possibly even overtake the top spot at their position. In Ruggs' case, I don't see him moving ahead of Darren Waller in target share anytime soon, of course, but the Raiders' wide receiver core is hardly intimidating. We're looking at guys like John Brown, Willie Snead, and Bryan Edwards as target competition for Ruggs in 2021. And let's not forget that while the Raiders probably reached on Ruggs, like they do with pretty much every draft pick, he was still a consensus first-round talent coming into the draft, offering field stretching ability, elite speed, and playmaking ability from anywhere on the field. You'd like to think John Gruden and company will find more ways to use him than just deep balls, which accounted for an absurd 35% of his targets last year. Derek Carr was far from awful last season too, finishing as the quarterback 13 with 4,100 passing yards and 27 touchdowns. The Raiders' offensive line is a huge question mark after some seismic offseason shakeups, but with Ruggs 122 ADP as the wide receiver 57, our entire season won't be hanging in the balance on one late round pick, even if it doesn't work out. And I still see there being too much upside here for us to pass him up. Jalen Reagor is a really interesting speculative play for me this season. He was a relatively hyped up fantasy pick last year after being drafted 21st overall by the Eagles. They could have had Justin Jefferson into what was supposed to be an above average offense. But the wheels fell off fast. Philadelphia became a black hole for fantasy production, and Reagor missed 5 games with an injury in the process. It was a wildly disappointing season, especially given how well many of the early round rookie receivers performed in 2020. But it's probably not time to erase Reagor from our memories quite yet. He's being drafted as the wide receiver 60 with an ADP of 133 on a team whose number 1 receiver is a rookie. Devonta Smith is an insane talent and one of only 3 receivers to ever win the Heisman, but we've still yet to see how his lack of size holds up at the NFL level, and he's still a rookie. Travis Fulgham had a huge month last year but disappeared otherwise, and will be the team's wide receiver 3 for 2021. Not to mention Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey, who were barely there last season anyway, are also departing from Philadelphia. Would it be a huge surprise to see Reagor, who was also a first-round selection, to far outperform his ADP on a team that has a modest 7-win total and should be forced to throw a lot? Would it be shocking to see him not far behind or even in line with Smith for targets this season? I don't think so. And even if I'm wrong, Smith is being drafted with an ADP of 71. That's more than 5 full rounds ahead of Reagor. I have no problem rolling the dice on the latter, with both of them being mostly unproven at football's highest level of competition. Gabriel Davis is in a bit of a precarious position heading into 2021, but taking a shot on him super late in drafts could pay huge dividends if all the stars align. John Brown is in Las Vegas now, and it's entirely possible that Cole Beasley could retire over this well-publicized vaccine dispute. Moreover, Emmanuel Sanders will be 34 years old heading into season number 12. So as you can see, Davis stands to benefit immensely if any of these uncertainties break in his favor. Davis came on pretty strong over the second half of the year thanks to touchdowns in 5 of his last 8 games, but he also eclipsed 68 yards receiving in half of those weeks. He certainly benefited from John Brown's absence, who was active for only 3 of those games, and touchdown regression feels inevitable even though he has the size to remain a legitimate red zone weapon. But all things considered, this was an excellent rookie season for the 4th-round receiver. He even saw 20 deep targets, which was 4 more than Stefon Diggs and right outside the top 20 in the league. All of these factors alone are enough to grab Davis at his current ADP of 127 as the wide receiver 58, although I just drafted him at 150 overall on Underdog Fantasy today, probably because people are worried about the reports of Sanders emerging as the wide receiver 2 in Buffalo. It's still early July, though. But we haven't even talked about Josh Allen in this Bills offense yet. Allen threw for over 4,500 yards with 37 touchdown passes last year and finished 6th in attempts with 572. Buffalo ran the ball at the 10th lowest clip despite having a dual-threat quarterback, while Allen attempted the 4th most passes inside the red zone. There should be some real opportunity for Davis to build off his year-1 success, which is why I'm bullish on him as a late-round wide receiver with upside on what should be a top-5 offense for the 2nd straight year. Michael Pittman Jr. enters his 2nd season with an opportunity to solidify himself as the Colts' top receiver. While he posted 40 receptions for 503 yards and only 1 touchdown in his rookie season, it's kind of absurd to expect all rookie receivers to post totals like Justin Jefferson or Chase Claypool. A modest rookie campaign certainly doesn't mean we should write a player off because they didn't win us leagues. Pittman has a 100 ADP on Underdog Fantasy right now as the 48th receiver going off the board. He's playing for an excellent offensive-minded coach in Frank Reich, and will be alongside 2 receivers in T.Y. Hilton, who until the final few weeks of the season was disastrous last year and is going into his 10th NFL campaign, and Paris Campbell, who has been unable to stay healthy and has been active for only 9 games in 2 seasons. The biggest question mark here with Pittman is how well newly acquired Carson Wentz will fare with the Colts. He almost looked unsalvageable through most of 2020, but how much of that responsibility is on Wentz, and how much was on the coaching, play calling, a depleted offensive line, and a complete absence of any serviceable weapons in the passing game? We're about to find out. And it doesn't hurt to know that Wentz will be reunited with Wright, who was the Eagles' offensive coordinator when Wentz was on pace to win the MVP before tearing his ACL late in the year. He'll also be standing behind one of the best offensive lines in football, so Wentz will have no excuses to fail this time. Ultimately, Pittman is a big-bodied receiver who can battle for 50-50 balls and be a primary target in the red zone when the Colts aren't running the football. More importantly, we should always be looking to find late-round receivers who can assume the number 1 role on their respective teams. Pittman checks off all of those boxes. Thanks for watching, and be sure to head over to Awesemo.com. Check out all the content we've got going on over there. And until then, continue crushing those drafts. We'll catch you back here on the next one.